Hey guys, welcome to episode number 544. Today is Monday, so it's update Monday, and I have made a lot of progress on the greenhouse frame. Now, I thought the greenhouse kit was coming in this past Friday. It's actually coming in this Friday, so I have a little bit more time than I thought to get this base all prepared for the arrival of the kit. And I'm happy to announce that I'm pretty close to done. As you may recall, last week I had cleared this section of ground and laid out the framing, but I hadn't leveled anything. It was just sort of laying on the ground. So what I've done in the past week, besides sweating a lot, is to dig down to make sure that these 4x4s are level with my brick. That way I can just walk straight into the greenhouse without having to take a giant step up. I had to dig quite a bit to get down to the point where I could sink my concrete blocks and then lay my 4x4s on top of that. But I used this front 12-foot long 4x4 as the basis for level for the entire frame. And as you'll see, I've got concrete blocks all the way along the edges, and these have all been tamped down. The ground underneath has been tamped down, and then the concrete blocks have been put on top. They are level, and all of the 4x4s that are on top are also level. So that was a significant amount of work. In addition to that, I've also put those galvanized deck brackets, I guess you call them, on the inside as well as the outside to sort of hold those corners together, and also hold these two 8-foot sections together to make sure that it's a structurally sound frame. And after all of that, the most important thing was actually measuring from one corner all the way to the other, and then the other corner all the way to the other, to make sure that those two measurements were exactly equal. Because if they're not, it means that the whole thing is skewed one way or the other, and you want everything to be equal so that these are true 90-degree corners on all four corners, and that everything is the same length, the same width, and the same angle. So that is what I've been up to. It doesn't necessarily look like a lot of work, but you've got to imagine using a level on all of these pieces individually, and then, you know, taking the blocks off, adding a little bit more, tamping it down, setting everything back up, checking for a level. It's a long process, and it did take quite a while. I do have one block under each section for all of these, except for this back corner, which is significantly lower. The ground is significantly lower, and so for here I had to put 2 blocks stacked on top. I used the cement construction adhesive to bond those 2 blocks together so that they won't slip off from one another, and I think that worked really well. So now that everything is level and square and set up and ready to go, one of the last things I need to do is install some ground anchors. Now, I've got 4 of these, and essentially what they do is make sure that this greenhouse won't turn into a giant parachute and take off in a windstorm. So these just screw into the ground, and what I'm going to do is bolt them into the side of the frame. And I've got 4 of them. I'm going to put 2 on each side to make sure that this thing is connected to the ground and will be able to withstand quite a bit of wind and quite a bit of force. The greenhouse kit itself is only a couple hundred pounds, I think. It's just aluminum and twin wall polycarbonate, so it's not very heavy, and as you could imagine, if the doors were all the way open and there's a big gust of wind, it could have the tendency to want to take off. So all of the hardware that I have is capable of holding a few thousand pounds a piece. So with 4 of those, I'm pretty confident that this thing won't go anywhere. Again, I like to try to over-engineer things and make sure that it will last. So that's sort of the current plan, and that's the next step. I also have a bunch of bags of gravel, and what I'm thinking of doing with that is infilling around the inside and the outside and underneath these 4x4 with a little bit of gravel, at least like an inch, to make sure that there's no dirt or soil that is touching these 4x4s. Now, these are pressure treated 4x4s, but you know, any moisture that sits against wood is going to have the tendency to want to rot that wood over time. So I'm gonna make sure I can see daylight underneath each of these timbers, and then I'm gonna infill with that gravel underneath and on both sides to make sure that any water that accumulates around the lumber will be able to drain off and won't just sit and puddle next to that wood. I'm also going to try to slope the ground away from the wood to make sure that you know, if there was a puddle, it would happen further out here into the lawn and not right up against the wood. So that's currently where I'm at. This is essentially all I need before the kit arrives, because the aluminum framing will sit right on these 4x4s, and then I can build it up, slide all of my twin wall polycarbonate in, and then I'll be in business. You will notice that I don't have enough gravel or enough dirt on the inside of this frame, and I think what I'm going to do first is dig a big hole here for that 8-foot stock tank and take all of that material and put it in here and try to level it all out, see if that will work. I think what I'm going to do is sink that stock tank. It's 2 feet tall. I'm going to try to sink it 2 feet into the ground so that it sort of utilizes the heating and cooling of the earth a little bit in the process, and keeps it lower than all of the aquaponics system that's going to be inside the greenhouse. So I'll accomplish a few things at the same time. I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna do for the ground inside of this to finish it off. I might get like a weed cloth or like some sort of hardware cloth to put down over the top of the soil, just to sort of keep everything neat and clean, but we'll have to see. I'm not too worried about that. I think that's something that I can accomplish once the greenhouse is actually put up. So I'm just going to worry about finishing off this ground, and we will get the kit this Friday, and there will be plenty of videos on the construction of that. So I will see you for that. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.